Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
I'm very excited to have this discussion about biracialness with you.
Yes.
Which of your parents is white and which is black?
My mother is white. My father is black.
Cool. And where did you grow up?
In Wyoming. Well, actually, split time between Wyoming and South Dakota.
Did you have extended family in South Dakota?
Well, my mother's family is from South Dakota originally. That's where she grew up. Around middle school, we went to Wyoming, and that's where I went to middle school and graduated from high school.
How did your parents meet?
Military. My mother, of course, was in South Dakota. My father was in the military, and there was a huge military base in South Dakota, and he was stationed there. So
Was he a big part of your life?
No.
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 Never?
No.
Okay. So they weren't married?
No, they were not. They met. She moved to Atlanta, where he was from, and then she had me, and she went back.
Okay. Was her family supportive of the relationship?
You know, to be honest, I don't know, because we never really had that conversation. I know that growing up, her father would make comments to me that would say otherwise, that they didn't really approve of the situation, but they would never actually attack me. So, you know, my whole lack of concept of race at the time didn't really allow for me to understand what was really going on. So I don't know.
Okay. But you had a relationship with your grandparents, your white ones?
My grandmother was dead, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what about your black extended family?
Other than, you know, the occasional birthday card or Christmas card, no communication really.
Okay, wow. When did you meet your father?
Yes, so interesting story. I was around 6 years old, and I was living in Wyoming, walking down the street. Of course, it was very small where I grew up, so people were comfortable with letting their kids run around outside unattended. Walking down the street, a man pulls up to me in a car. And mind you, I had never seen a black person before, so I was deathly afraid. And he pulls up to me and he asks me, "Do you know where I can find Stephanie?" And I'm looking at him like, who is this man? Like, I'm freaking out, like, oh my god, I'm scared. And I was like, no. And he asked me again, you sure? Like, you sure you don't know where I can find her? And I say, no, I don't know. You know, he found the whole thing entertaining and amusing, and then finally pulls out my school picture, and he says, "Do you know this girl?" And I'm like, I swear I had to look like I seen a ghost, because I was like, how does this man have a picture of me? Like, you know, I was thinking he was gonna like kidnap me and take me somewhere, and I just didn't know. I was scared, so I said no. And so finally he saw that I was getting really scared, so he drives off, and I run home, and I go in my room, and I'm like sitting here like, oh my gosh, should I tell my mother? Like, I'm scared. And my mother calls me into the living room and says, "Your father's here." And that was the first time I met my father.
Wow. Okay. So what happened then?
As far as a relationship, nothing much really. We didn't have any communication for a few years after that.
What did you know of him before he showed up that day?
Honestly, I can't recollect my mother saying anything, which is good, but it's bad. Later on, I realized that my mother had nothing nice to say about him. So, you know, I don't know if it would have been more beneficial to hear the bad things earlier or hear them later when I could comprehend a little bit.
Did you notice before then that you didn't necessarily look like your mom?
No. At that point, I had no idea, no concept of race or realizing that I was different at all.
She never said anything?
No, nothing.
And so when did you realize?
It wasn't until I was about 10 or 11 that I realized it. And even though I knew that I was a little different, I still didn't really have a concept of race. It was just me basically realizing that my skin was darker than the other kids. Because up until that point, I didn't even know.
Did someone point it out to you, or did you just one day say, "Hey, wait a minute"?
I think it was a combination of a couple comments classmates made, and then seeing my father again. Because when I saw him again, I was so scared of him, but I realized he had brought my sister with him that the next time I saw him,
Oh.
and knowing that they were a part of me, and seeing how different they were than everybody else that I knew, I realized then that there's something a little bit different than me than everybody else that's around me.
Was she older or younger than
She's
you?
younger than me.
Wow. So what was that like, meeting her for the first time?
I was scared. Like it was just a fear. Like I don't know if it was a fear of acceptance or it was just me being ignorant to not understanding just people being different.
What was it like where you grew up, where you didn't really have a sense of culture? It was very small,
Very, very
rural.
small. I would say it couldn't have been more than 1,000 to 1,200 for as a population for that town. And then after middle school, I moved to a town that was roughly 153 people, way in the middle of the Midwest, like right in the middle. And I never once, not until high school or late middle school, did I ever go to school with anybody who was of any race, except for one girl in elementary school was Asian.
Did you feel that the two of you, or either one of you, were treated differently?
I definitely noticed that she actually, at least to my knowledge and my recollection, was made fun of more than I was. And I remember hearing comments, and I don't know if it was me mentally blocking out comments made about me, but I don't recall as a child very many comments made derogatory towards me.
So when do you think you became racially aware, or maybe I should say racially self-aware?
I think it really hit home for me end of middle school when I moved to Wyoming, and there was now 2 kids that were black in my school, and everybody kind of grouped me with them, and this was something foreign to me because I had never really considered myself to be part of any particular group. It was just, I was just being happy and being free, and now I'm being told that, oh, like, you need to be with this person because you guys look the same, even though we didn't at all, but...
So it was like, oh, obviously you two will be a couple.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that totally happened to me too. Not till I got to high school, freshman year, but totally happened to me. So even up until that point, which I'm guessing is 6th grade? Like
that was like 7th, 8th grade.
Okay. Had you even noticed that like people didn't necessarily pair you and your mom together?
Yeah, there was some comments. I know a few comments were made about thinking that I was adopted, or even a couple people used to say that my mother used to abuse me.
Just because she was white and you were black?
I guess so, because there was no other reason.
There are quotes around that, black.
Yeah, and then there is, I do remember the neighbor kids calling me nigger at one point, and but when they were calling me nigger, I didn't understand the word. I didn't understand the connotation behind it. I just knew it was simply a derogatory word, but it wasn't probably till about 3 or 4 years later that I actually understood what the word meant. And but it's funny, to this day I still can hear them calling me nigger.
What was the context? Like they were just taunting you with the word, or
they were just, I don't even think so. Like I don't even think they meant it in a negative way. They just used the word, and they probably heard their parents say it, and used it, and thought that they weren't saying anything wrong, and didn't mean to hurt me in any kind of way, because they did really see me as a friend. Because they weren't saying it negatively, I didn't take it negatively. I didn't know. I know that I had heard it was a bad word, but that's like hearing, shit.
Right.
As a kid, and people saying, no, you shouldn't say that, but
right.
Yeah, all these adults are saying it, so it's kind of the same thing.
And had your mom ever, had she, up until that point, or has she ever had a conversation with you about?
Never.
Wow.
Never at all.
Do you think that would have helped?
No. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it would have made a difference.
So, through high school, you were still in this pretty much a white...
No, once I got to high school, I think around my 8th grade freshman year, I pretty much understood that I was of another race. And I changed schools in high school. There was a Mexican girl and an Indian boy that went to school with me. So that was what I considered diversity in high school. And from there I started to then gain an interest in rap music, which I didn't really listen to before. And then now I have BET. And so I'm seeing more faces that I can identify myself with. However, I still was not, there was nobody that I could tangibly touch or talk to face to face. So it was still kind of like an aberration and almost like a dream. Like one day I will be amongst these people, but it's I don't know, you know. It's weird. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's bizarre to remember all this stuff.
Where did you go to college?
I went to college in Atlanta. Went from Middle America, white Middle America to what they now consider the Black Mecca. And a lot of people used to ask me when I got to Atlanta if I had a culture shock, which to me, no, because, you know, like growing up, I've never identified with white or black. It's just, I've always just kind of been me and never really placed a lot of emphasis on any race. So going from one place to another wasn't so much a racial shock or culture shock as it was just a different environment. So, you know, you go from the country to the city and there's adjustments that had to be made, but it wasn't because there's more black people now than there is white people. It was just simply my environment.